Hello YouTube, Komodo Gaming here, bringing you yet another episode of Scrap Mechanic. Now, today is going to be a little bit different build. Unfortunately, I lost my live commentary, and I'm going to tell you why. I've been creating a big world to kind of play multiplayer with friends, and we were going to start creating, cool creations for you guys and really fill out a world and kind of see what we can do. Unfortunately, I don't think Scrap Mechanic is ready for that yet. I've seen a lot. I can do multiplayer builds where we just build like one or two vehicles, but I had this big picture in my head of like a grand scale. We're going to have buildings and houses. I'm going to have this monorail system, which I'm going to show you. I did manage to salvage this footage. I'm going to show you how I built that today. But I had this big picture in my head of having just this awesome world that we were going to be able to go in and play in. And unfortunately, I don't think Scrap Mechanic's ready for that yet. It's just not stable. I built this rail system, and I'm going to go ahead and... everything works. I'm showing you my design that actually worked out. But I started building the track, and I got the track all the way across the map, and the game bugged out. It corrupted my save file. It even corrupted this video file. I managed to save... Bandicam's got like a bandy fix, and it went back and saved some of my footage. I was live commentating over it, but I'm decided not to keep it where I can better explain what's happening here. Because this video, I do get the vehicle tested. The monorail works. I didn't get to build the track all the way down like I wanted to, because that's what I was going to show. So unfortunately, that's going to get cut out because it just corrupted midway down track. I think I was probably 3/4 away done with the track, and the game just flipped out. And unfortunately, I don't have access to this world anymore. It crashes each time I try to load this world up. I don't know if there's a fix for that. I looked online and I didn't see any. But yeah, I had a lot of things created. I had a house, as you can see in the background, there's a house with a garage. I mean, it was really nice. On the other side, there's a couple prototype rail cars. There was just a lot of things I was trying, but this is the first one that actually works, so I'm going to kind of explain what I'm doing here. I've seen a lot of these online. I've seen a lot of them on YouTube, and I've seen a lot where they just kind of set the rail car on the rail and it just drives down in. I've seen some where they kind of wrap around, and there's been some really neat ideals, but my ideal for a rail car, I built a track, and I'll show a little later how I actually built this track. I built it in a way that basically it's going to have arms that are going to wrap around the track, and as it wraps around the track, it's really, really stable. It's really sturdy. I don't feel like the vehicle's ever going to get knocked off of it, not unless somebody comes there with a big vehicle and like runs it over. I don't know. I didn't get to test that, but I wanted just a design that was going to wrap completely around the rail and go up and down it. My first initial design, I tried to use electric motors, and I was going to have one button make it go down and the other button was going to be a reverse, but when I designed it, when I kick either in the forward or the reverse, I guess you can say gear, it froze the wheels on the reverse wheels would freeze and it would just drag down the track. It didn't work really well. So I'm going to try, I tried I think this is my third or fourth design. I was going to use just a cockpit, and I was going to make it where it drives down with a gas motor. It's still going to work. I mean, it's still going to be wrapped around the track. I'm not really, the only thing the cockpit is actually used for is going to be for forward and reverse. But I'm going to kind of show you here how I designed this and how I got it to wrap around the track. And then, like I said, I'm going to go a little bit later and show you the track design. That way, if you want to try this out, or if you have something a little bit better you can do to it, you can try to use this as like a beginning, like I said, I don't know what some people do with these videos. I'm pretty sure some people kind of take these designs and go try to make them better and kind of use them as a tutorial. So I'm gonna go over it that way. Like I said, I apologize about what happened to the level. I spent probably 4 hours on this level, or 4 or 5, I think, and it finally corrupted on me, and I was not a happy camper. So anyways, what I'm showing here, I've got the rail design. The rail, I've got 2 on the bottom, 4 in the middle, 2 on top. The wheels that I'm creating here are going to set on top of the rails, and there's 2 rails that poke up in the middle, so this should kind of grip around it. I'm also going to create some wheels that are going to go on the underside of the rails. Some wheels that they'll go on the underside and they'll grip the bottom. So this should create a stable cart. And I keep saying it should. I mean, I already know the outcome of this. It does create a stable cart. It doesn't bounce around. I've seen the physics freak out on people where once they kind of wrap it around, the cart starts jumping and it tries to hop off the track. I really don't have that issue here. And I'm going to show you kind of how I achieved that. As you can see, I was talking about the rail design here on the right side. There's 2 rails on the bottom, there's 4 in the middle, and there's 2 on top. And I just make it go all the way down. Now, I don't really think I was going to be able to make the rail cart turn. Say I was going to make a turn way down. I had picked out an area towards one side of the map, and I was going to be able... I had like almost a straight shot complete to the complete other side of the map, and that was going to be the way I was going to go back and forth. Anyways, I'm going to create the legs that go down here, and I'll show you how I make it kind of wrap around the track here. I'm going to wind up putting a bearing on the bottom side, and I'm going to put a sideways wheel that's going to touch those 2 bottom middle rails on the bottom. And that actually... It's a really cool design. I've seen a lot of designs fairly similar to this, and but I don't think I've ever seen anybody do the way I did the tracks. And I just felt the way I designed the tracks actually really played into making this thing stable, and it works really well. I'm really bummed that I can't go back and continue to work on this and continue to build on it and make it go. I mean, it was going to go all the way across the map, so it's really heartbreaking, but. I mean, it is what it is right now. It is an early access game. You kind of buy it going in with the mindset that there's going to be bugs. This game's going to crash. So for my future builds, I'm still going to build with friends, but we're going to stick to smaller vehicles, aircraft, and I'm not going to do like a continuing world because just out of fear of it corrupting the way it did here. And this is not the first time that I've had a world corrupt. I had one, and I don't. It's been a long time, but I have had one more world corrupt. But I believe this was because just the sheer volume of blocks that were in the world, and just it bugged out and decided that it wasn't going to work anymore. But anyways, this is the design I did. As you can see, how the wheels wrap around the bottom, and they have the wheels that set on top. Now, all wheels I'm going to make eventually drive the vehicle down, and I'll show you kind of how I did that. I'm going to create I believe I'm just creating a shell here, and I'm going to start placing the seats. I'm also going to have just a simple door. I didn't get to really decorate I was going to put some lights on it, and I was going to probably put some windows in it, but I didn't really get to do that. But I did put a simple door that when it unfolds, it kind of folds out to the platform. That way you just walk right into it. It was really neat. And I was going to have on the other side of the platform here, I was going to have another set of stairs and make it to where you can enter in on each side, but I only got to one side before it corrupted. Another interesting thing that I kind of wish Scrap Mechanic would change, a lot of times when you create low vehicles or vehicles that have roofs on them, if the roof isn't so high up, when you try to climb out of the cockpit or eject from the cockpit seat, you'll get stuck in the ceiling. And I kind of wish there was a way to where they can make it where you can you can kind of change it to where maybe you can eject out the side, because that was one issue I did run into with this build. I didn't really have that issue with the passenger seats. It was just the cockpit seat for whatever reason. But I'm putting these pegs out on the side of this vehicle. I'm going to show you how I'm going to do the door here. I'm going to put a bearing here on this side, and I'll put one on the other here. And it's just a really simple. I'm going to set a controller up, and I'm going to make it just literally the doors are going to stay folded, just going to fold out, and then there's going to be a button on the side that's going to make them fold back in. Like so. I'm also really excited. I did watch, I forgot whose video it was. If I can go back and find it, I might put it in the description. Somebody has gone in and I might have already mentioned this in a previous video. Somebody's gone in and found some of the things they're working on. I know they're working on a welding tool. There's a spray can, and the spray can is going to be it's going to be awesome being able to paint your designs and paint your builds, because that's one thing that's really lacking when you have to like use all wood blocks. It makes the build look really plain. So that's going to be really cool once they implement that in the game. And here I was finally running into some frame rate issues right around the station, so I was actually going to delete basically a couple of my prototypes that I had started, and this one freaked out and crashed into my house. But I was going to just delete some of these and kind of free up some power. That way I wasn't like really struggling with frames. Another thing I realized, I was like, well, a lot of times what makes the frames freak out are the amount of springs or the shocks in one area. So I went over here and just kind of deleted some of these, and it really did improve the frames quite a bit. Another thing I was testing out for this world, I was going to test if the frames, if everything's just tied straight to the world, say even if I was on the other side of the map, would I still be suffering from frame rate issues from a vehicle that's on the complete opposite side? So that was one thing I was going to test, because for a multiplayer, we were going to build things all over the map. And I was just trying to test to see kind of how spaced apart I needed to build everything. That way we could test, and we knew kind of how far we needed to be away from other creations. That way we had the best frame rate as possible. I know this is something that's being addressed. The developers are working on ways of optimizing the game and making it where you can really use quite a bit more blocks in one area, quite a bit more creations that. Like I said, the main thing that makes the game freak out are the shocks. I've just noticed anytime you put a lot of shocks in one area, the game just it doesn't like that. So, anyways, I go down here and make it to where the doors just stay open, and then that's going to be anytime you get to the station, you click the button, the doors fold down into the platforms like this. And then once you get into the train or the monorail, you just click the button, folds the doors up, get into the cockpit. I'm gonna I built enough seats, or I don't know if I've already built them. No, I haven't built the seats yet. I'm gonna build enough seats to where I think I was gonna be able to hold 6 or 8 people. That was just gonna be when we get friends in here, we can go across the map all together. I mean, it's really not the most useful thing. I mean, you could really drive across the map. It's just something neat to have. It's something neat that you can do in the game. And that's really what this build was about. Just kind of prove the design that I was thinking of in my head, that this was going to work, and this was just going to be something neat that if anybody wanted to use it in the map, it was there. Here I was trying to figure out where I was going to place the motors. I was thinking about, I think I kind of select some blocks here in a minute. I was thinking about placing them on the back side, but I believe after all this I'm going to settle, and I placed them down in between the wheels that are setting on top of the rails. They fit perfect in there. So I think that's where I'm going to wind up settling with the motors. But like I said, overall it's almost heartbreaking. This build went really well. I mean, it took a while because I went through several different designs until I was actually happy with what was happening on the track. All of my designs really worked, but a couple of them were just didn't work. Like, they weren't to my standard of how I pictured the monorail working. So you can see here I put these motors down. I think I put maybe 4 of them in here. And I want to use these to power the wheels that you see right in front of you, and plus the wheels on the I was debating if I was going to power the wheels on the underside or if I was just going to use those for kind of stability. But I think in the end I wound up powering those wheels that are on the bottom too. Those. Let's see. I go up and get my passenger seats and my driver seats already, and start placing those. I think I built this thing long enough to where I could leave a block in between, so you can kind of still maneuver inside. It's not meant to where you can stand up and walk around the monorail. It's more meant to, you're going to enter right in on the station. But maybe eventually down the road, once the game stabilizes a little bit, I'd like to build a big train, something that you could actually walk up and down the aisles. I think that would be really neat. You might need some different blocks. I would like to see some curved rails in the game. Maybe that's something that's going to come in the future. Or actually, you know, I don't even know what I'm using. I don't know if it's even called curved rails. I think it's just they're beams. That's what I'm using for the railing on the bottom. But as you can see here, I screw up here, and I believe this is where I screwed up. I was already kind of angry by this time. No, actually, no, I don't screw up here. I don't think. I was pretty ticked by this time because I had several prototypes. You see the two that are over there. I think I actually had one or two more that I had started out with. I initially started out with a rail. I wanted a rail on the top and the bottom, thinking that was going to be the most. I mean, it probably still is the way to secure it the most, where it's not going to go anywhere. But by the time I placed all the wheels in place and I had everything going, the game didn't agree with it at all. And I ran into the issue to where when I was going down the track, even though it was really secure and tight, there wasn't a lot of room for maneuverability. It still bounced a lot. The railings kind of freaked out. The wheels were bouncing, and it was just it wasn't a very pleasant ride. So I'm not really going for speed. I'm just going for a ride that's smooth and, you know, just doesn't really have a chance of hopping off the track. Because that's the one fear. It would be really hard to pick this thing up on a lift and hook it back to the track. You would almost have to delete some of the bottom to get it to where you can just lay it back on the track, and even then it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. And then you'd have to build the bottoms back and wrap it around the track. So I wanted something that was just going to stay there. One thing I do wish I would have done, I wish I would have raised the rail. This bottom rail, as you can see, I'm testing it here. It's a little unstable, so I needed to add some weight. It's doing that bouncing effect that I talked about some other prototypes did. So I think I'm going to do a combination of slowing it down, because it does have a lot of power to it. And once I add some weight to the bottom, it's going to weigh it down, and it'll make it to where it's going to be a lot more stable. But here I'm just kind of testing, make sure. I mean, it's working, and you could tell it's really hooked to the rail. It's got that bouncing effect. So I'm going to add some side skirts and make it to where it weighs down the monorail and makes it to where it actually functions a lot better. This was I left the top open. What I was talking about a while ago, where when you eject from the cockpit, you hop straight up, and if you have a roof on that, you get stuck and you have to wait for the game to figure out what it's doing before it shoots you out the side. So that's one thing I'd like to see them work on. But here I toned down all the motors because it was a little much. I wasn't going for I've seen some people do, and they're really neat on YouTube. I've seen some people do the rocket powered monorails, which that's really cool. But that's not really what I was going for. I was going for more like a scenic. You know, I was going to have stuff built up and down the rails. You know, maybe bridges and stuff for cars to get over. So it was going to be more like a scenic ride. It wasn't going to be very fast. I think randomly I built I must have deleted the support I had under there at some point, but anyways, here's it. And here's the slower. I think the slower, it stabilizes it quite a bit, but it still needed some weight because I could still feel it jerking around like it didn't want to stay. And I don't really know what's causing that. Like I said, I don't have any. One of my first designs actually had suspension on the rails laying on top of the track. And that caused it to act really weird, especially when you slowed down. The whole cart would lean to the front, and it would try to like rip it off the track. So I decided to go with something that just didn't have any suspension at all. So I drive it back here. I've got a stopper in the back, kind of how I did those poles that go across it. Makes it to where I don't jump off the track at the end. But yeah, this was going really well. I was really proud. I wanted to show the house off. I didn't make a video of me building the house because there's nothing really special to it as far as something that, you know, somebody else couldn't figure out. It was just a design that I really liked, and I had a really neat garage in there. And I was going to show that off. Like, this whole video was going to be me building the monorail, taking the long trip, and then also showing off the house that I built and kind of talking about how, you know, we're going to start playing with friends. We're going to get some people in here, and we'll play together, and we're going to create some cool stuff for you guys. But unfortunately, that's, like I said, not going to happen at the moment. Kind of waiting for some patches to come out. I've already mentioned I am going to still play with friends. We're going to get some builds going. I've got some ideals, some ideals that are going to actually need several people to control at the same time. So we do have some neat stuff coming up, but you know, I wanted to show this off because this was something that it worked, and it worked actually really good. It's something that, you know, maybe if somebody watching this can find something even a little bit better design-wise, I believe this is pretty solid, but this is meant to be built off of. So if anybody wants to comment in the comments below, if you see something that you've done or something that you think can be improved on it, just feel free to comment below, and we'll try to implement it in future builds. But yeah, I think this is coming to the end of the card itself. I think I do another test drive here. I added the side skirts in, and this added some weight to it. And this actually made it to where it was stable. It hooked to the rail. I was probably gonna have to maybe speed up the motor up one, because with the extra weight it slowed it down even more. But I mean, it functioned. It didn't hop around. It jarred a little bit, but you could just feel it. It felt so much smoother. Yeah, I could have probably made it even longer, and I was thinking about, you know, extending it out more. This was more like a prototype, you know. Was this track design and this wheel design on the bottom going to work? And here's the video. I was going to show you exactly how I designed this rail, and this was the 2 on top, 4 in the middle, and the 2 on bottom. And that's exactly how I did this. And like I said, I do apologize. You know, I try to regularly upload at least 2 a week. I have a really hectic work schedule, so this was going to be like my big build. This was going to be a several part build with friends, but I at least wanted to show off the monorail design. I wanted to show that, you know, this is a working design. If anybody wanted to use it or try it or make it even better, you know, that's always welcome. But anyway, so we still have some future builds planned. I've got some other things on tap. I think I'm actually going to start a couple more series. I'm finally opening up as far as time wise. I've got it to where I can probably push out 1 or 2 more videos a week. I'm probably going to stick right around the 2 videos a week for Scrap Mechanic. Just try to make them, you know, as good as possible. And I'm not going to just throw out random crap at you guys. So, anyways, if you'd like to subscribe, if you want to like the video, comment. If you see anything, you know, you think we can do better, just comment below. And we'll see you guys next time.